Hello, everyone. I would like to invite to my new podcast, Szymon Bochniak. How are you, Szymon, today?
I'm great. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to finally have a chance to meet you in face because we had a lot of
Indeed.
discussions in the past, somewhere in the chat, and finally we have the possibility to talk face to face.
Definitely. Um, can you tell me who you are, where you're from, what you do?
Sure. So Szymon Bochniak, I working nowadays in Software One Group, helping customers in the area of digital workplace. And historically, I spent last 15 years working with Microsoft technologies, starting with Windows SharePoint Services 2.0, so prehistoric
Oh.
era, to be fair.
Yeah.
Grew up from SharePoint consulting to Office 365, like all of us, to be fair. And nowadays, let's say, I'm working closer to sales rather than delivery and helping the customers to, let's say, figure out the ideas how to address the challenges in the organization and how to do more with Microsoft 365. And after working hours, I also, let's say, I'm author of the blog office365atwork.com and YouTube channel when I were recording. And this is, let's say, a side passion I have after working hours.
Yeah. And what country are you from?
Yeah, I'm the Polish citizen, so I'm living in Central Europe, in Poland, in very small village next to the Krakow, which I highly recommend to visit. If you will be visiting Poland, Krakow is a really great place to visit.
How far is it from Ukraine? Is that
200, 300 kilometers, something like that.
Oh, okay. So it's not too far, but not too. No, that's quite far. Like, yeah. But
Yeah,
I hope
but
you
again,
never.
Poland, we are the neighbor of Ukraine, so hopefully we will have chance to visit them opposite sides soon. I'm keeping fingers crossed
Yeah,
for that.
I think everyone needs peace because the situation in Ukraine is already more than a year. Not that easy. So you mentioned that you're dealing with Microsoft 365, but Microsoft 365 is a big chunk of applications. So, what is your main focus?
True, true. Today, it's. I think it's very fair to say that it's very difficult to know everything around Microsoft 365, especially to be expert in this area. So I grew up from SharePoint, SharePoint on premise and SharePoint online. So I'm quite familiar with that technology. Did a lot of work there. So working with the customers around how to improve the communication and customer or employee engagement around SharePoint, Viva, Teams. About any migrations from on-premise, which is still happening, to SharePoint Online. And this is, let's say, something that I grew up from. In the past, I was also working a lot of with Power Platform, but mostly in building the idea how to use it, because SharePoint designer experience is super useful in
Yeah.
such a case. But at the same time, I never had hands-on experience there. So
Mm-hmm.
I talking with the customers how they can digitalize business processes using Power Platform. But if you ask me to develop something, probably I will not be the best person to do that.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the elements I'm focusing a lot or have discussions with the customers a lot is, let's say, discussions around multi-tenancy and challenges in the organizations that have multiple entities, multiple tenants, and what to do with that. We have a lot of cases where there are mergers, acquisitions, how to
Yeah.
organize that kind of process, how to build a strategy around it. And this is also connected with security, identity, and topics around Intune, how to manage also end user devices. But I'm more advising in this
Yeah.
area rather than delivering that kind of projects.
Yeah. Definitely, as we said, Microsoft 365 is a big thing, but as a good consultant, as I think you need to know enough to know what it is each app is about in order to maybe consult how to integrate between them, or how to, if you have a list and then you have automation, and if you want to connect it to a power app or any other or to Teams or something, you at least need to know what it does and the capability, and maybe sometimes the limitations and boundaries, so we don't reach all kinds of issues. But that sounds very interesting, actually. And what do you think, actually? Do you think, for instance, the Power Platform, is that, some people say, it's citizen developer and anyone can do it and it's easy. From my experience, if you don't do it full-time job, then actually uh, it's much complicated. And if you have a development background, it would be much more easier. So what do you think about is, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree about that. Just I will reference to what you said before. So I fully agree that nowadays, being the consultant, also maybe Power Platform consultant, you don't have to be expert in every area, but it's good to have wide understanding what is Intune, what is PureView, maybe how the and the identity services works. But you don't have to be, let's say, expert how to configure all of that. Yeah, but you need to be comfortable in discussions with the customer. And to be fair, my idea when I was starting with Power Platform, it was a few years ago, but when it was rolling out, I was expecting that, let's say, this, let's say, starting point, which will be much faster for everyone to get to work with Power Platform, and it is, but for the very basic scenarios. If we're talking to
Yes.
build complex business applications with huge logic on front end, on the Power Apps, on a lot of, let's say, business logic behind in the Power Automate processes, it's not that easy. Yeah? And I agree, if you have some developer experience, it could be very useful. And because it also have this specific, let's say, touch of SharePoint designer, it's very specific how things working. So it's not that intuitive. You need to work on daily basis with this technology to be familiar how to set up things. So I agree. If any one of viewers would like to think about becoming Power Platform developer, probably it's good to put a lot of efforts to work on that technology, because best practices, performance, things like that, these are not the things that you will be able to learn very quick. But at the same time, I'm not a developer at all, and
Yeah.
using Power Platform allows me to do things, that are useful
Yeah.
for me, but at the same time, not something super complex.
Yeah, but for instance, governance is very important. If you use your own account and not a service account, and all of a sudden a flow, somebody leaves the company and the user and the flow was running on a specific user, then there's lots of things. Okay. I noticed. So, what was your journey actually? What was your journey to Microsoft and Office? What did you learn in university, or how did you come to Microsoft, or to, sorry, the technology of Microsoft?
Yeah, so the first job I get, that was really, let's say, something more professional at the call center, was the company called Webcom, which nowadays building, let's say, business processes. At that time, they were delivering a lot of automation based on SharePoint and designer workflows, which we all love. And frankly speaking, that was, let's say, not something I planned or I was focusing on, just something that happened. I started to work there, learn a lot of things with the team that building the solutions there. And let's say step by step, I get from, let's say, building business processes to administration role, to architect role, to analyst role, to move on to the Office 365. And I would again reference to what you said about being the consultant. In my opinion, having the possibility to work with the business around business processes, about the context, so not being just the administrator that taking care that systems working, is super important nowadays. Because again, there will be always some kind of administration part in the area of the Microsoft 365. But in my opinion, let's say, if somebody thinking about the career around it, probably being a business consultant that working with Microsoft 365 is something much more, giving you much more possibilities rather than being just the super expert admin. Especially if you don't have developer experience like me.
Yeah. I mean, I also don't have a background with development, and I think there's enough um, in SharePoint and Teams to be implementer. You can be administrator. You can also do adoption and training, and all of these things. Actually, I'm involved, and I really enjoy doing it. And I think you also are part of it. Um, you tell me about some projects that you did or you're doing now where you have some challenges, and how did you overcome them with SharePoint Teams or
Yeah, so maybe lately the few elements that we're working with our team is how to let's say enable the SharePoint as a platform connected with Teams and Viva products as something like customer experience or employee experience portal. And this is something that when you're starting to think about and comparing that how the intranet portals were built, I know 10, 15 years ago, it's totally different world. Yeah? So that time it was very long, very expensive project that requires a lot of custom development. And after 2 years of building that, you get the project that, let's say, address maybe 10, 50% of 15% of the business expectations. Nowadays, it's totally speed up because we can use, let's say, functionalities that are already there. And moreover, SharePoint is just the one component there. Yeah, so we cannot tell that, let's say, maybe it could be the central place, but still, if we, to be very fair, Teams is the central, let's say, component nowadays when we're building the employee experience portal, especially if you have any kind of frontline workers or workers on the field side, which have to use mobile phones. So Teams will be the platform that they're using to, let's say, get the information from the organization. And naturally, we will use Viva connections to deliver that and SharePoint in the background. And thankfully, let's say, we can tell that building such a platform is more agile, the waterfall, like it was in the past. So delivering such a projects many times are, 4-6 weeks, something that we're delivering very quickly, getting the feedback from the business users and checking is it something that works for them and adapting based on the feedback. And to be very fair, nowadays SharePoint Online, the modern approach with Viva connections, with Teams, allows to do that very quickly, much cheaper than in the past, and even without external company to deliver that, external vendor. If the internal organization have strong IT department, it is possible to do that internally and just get some advisory from the outside. So both models works. Again, if the organization doesn't have big budget to hire somebody to do that in behalf of them, there is good chance that some starting point could be delivered by them and then scale up when it will start to grow.
I mean, that's interesting. I have a question because I noticed some people say actually maybe companies don't need a company portal because maybe because it really depends on the information there, because sometimes if the information is static and no updates are there and they just even put it as a default on the site and people just move away, or it opens up in the browser but then they move aside because they want to go to do their thing. Once it was really everyone will go to the portal and see the latest information, but it really depends, I think, on an or maybe the communication team in the company that makes the information relevant, maybe specifically for each one what they see, and also updated so you don't see a link or a video that was a year ago and then people are not interested at all. What do you think about that?
I totally agree with you. So nowadays, I think the technology is not the challenge, because the components are already there. Almost every organization that owns Office 365 have the licenses to do it. it doesn't require any custom development. So building at least simple landing page which will be embedded to Microsoft Teams and delivered to every employee is very straightforward. But I totally agree with you. The challenge is to bring people there and
Adoption.
engage them. Exactly. And founding some kind of, let's say, business accelerator, something that will catch them. Yeah. And in the past, I was working as a SharePoint admin. I remember when I very first time seen them in trying to one organization, I see, pictures from Thursday beer parties. Yeah. And I was thinking, what's the sense behind it? Yeah. What is additional value? But when we check the, let's say, analytics, most of the people was visiting exactly the picture to see somebody, Joe, handling the beer or drinking or partying or anything like that. And at the very first step, maybe that's the point how we bringing users. We have to figure out things like that. Yeah. And this is very business oriented, not IT oriented. So we need to, as you mentioned, we need to work with the business side around adoption to find some business cases, how to bring people, maybe to found something that is not increasing the revenue of the organization or improving the way how it works, but just to visit it. Maybe the second, third, or 15 times they will visit website, then they will go for the announcements or documents. But this engagement at the very beginning is super important. So I totally agree. Business part, again, business consulting is super important in this case.
Talking about consultancy, I saw in your CV or in what you did, I saw you also had some part where you worked for Microsoft or in some part. And my question is, as a consultant, sometimes, or can you tell me what different experiences can you get in as a consultant compared for working for Microsoft? Because Microsoft is creating the technology, but the consultant is actually has the practical experience how the user is engaging with it. And how is the difference? What can you say?
I do not want to, let's say, maybe sound a little different, but it's very difficult to imagine working there from the outside because it's a huge organization. Yeah. So I know if you're working as a consultant around Microsoft 365, probably you're doing a lot of stuff. Yeah? So you're focusing on the working with the business, working with technology, adapting new things and elements like that. I was working at the Microsoft Fast Track, and to be fair, I was focused on very dedicated, limited approach that I was focusing on. Yeah? So it's not that I work on everything or every technology. I was just specifically engaged in specific campaigns in specific technologies, like ones with Intune, ones with Viva Learning, ones with Power Platform. And in general, working with the customer just in specific area. So again, probably it will also depend on the role. If somebody will join Microsoft, what they will do. But to be fair, because it's a huge organization, thousands of people working there. Yeah.
Then you get to a niche. Yeah.
Exactly.
So you mean as a consultant, you need to wear different hats, and sometimes you need to do hands-on and touch different technologies and engage with people, and it's each one is a different experience. And probably in Microsoft you can also see technology that has not even reached and test things that will never even be published, but you cannot share that. But each one has its pros and cons, but that's interesting.
Maybe one more additional thing that is, from my perspective, was really great benefit of working there. There's a lot of trainings. Yeah. So even if you're working on the very specific niche, you're focusing on just one specific task there. There is possibility to gather additional knowledge from multiple, let's say, sources around the organization. It's very, let's say, organization driven to train people, to share their knowledge, to share the expertise.
Yeah.
And it's super beneficial.
And probably that's a possibility to increase your career in different ways and learn things that, people work for Microsoft sometimes 20, 30 years. So it can be a nice, a very good career, and probably, yeah. So actually, you have, how did I know you? Actually, I saw you created like a course, a free course, where you provided all kinds of things. And actually, the first course I took was how to create your own tenant. Can you tell me a bit how you, what was your idea of creating this course for free? It probably took lots of resource, and what was the intention for all of that?
So idea behind it is, let's say, very good advisory from my wife. So my wife always recommending me, if I want to do something, to try it first, to check if this is possible. And after some time, when I was working with, let's say, blog and YouTube channel, I was thinking to deliver some training course for the community that's starting to be built there. So I decided, let's start to deliver something that will be available for everyone and will have value. And at that time, let's say, understanding and knowing about something called Microsoft 365 developer program was not that common. And this is really great opportunity that allows everyone to create their own Microsoft 365 tenant with E5 licenses and have space to learn. Yeah? So have space to train with Power Platform, to build something on SharePoint, and I don't know, train with the new Teams functionalities, and without any additional cost. So you don't have to pay for this product. This is delivered for free. But at the same time, most of the people I know have no idea that something like that exists at all, and moreover, how to set it up. So idea was very simple. Let's start to build the course that will deliver the work through the process, how to set up your own Microsoft 365 tenant for free, just for the learning purposes, and have the space when you can learn, train, fix something, broke something, and work in the area Microsoft 365. Especially that I know personally I have 2 or 3 that I playing with most times. So
Yeah,
I
actually,
personally
I
use
call
that.
it's a sandbox. We call it, yeah.
Exactly.
I,
And
I,
again,
I yeah, I
it's
think
free.
it's
So
yeah, it's a great place because you don't depend on your own IT, and you can do whatever you want, and it can be a great development area. And I thank you for that, because that let me do lots of trials and errors. And actually, you have also a YouTube channel. Uh, can you tell me about the YouTube channel? How did it start? Um,
yeah, so before the course, I was starting to do some training about how to record something on YouTube. And if you go there, you see the first videos are not that great.
yeah,
But again, I get the, let's say, model of working that to start small, test it, and adapt. Yeah, rather than big
yeah,
boom, invest a lot of
yeah,
money to do something. So that was the idea. Again, to deliver some more content, not only, let's say, just the articles on the blog, what I was focusing that time. Again, this is something that is delivered for free on YouTube. There are some videos that are people very like. There's a lot of stuff that I delivered that I was thinking that is useful, and maybe you will find some knowledge that also can be helpful for you. In general, I'm sharing my expertise and things that I'm working on. So
yeah.
again,
Actually, I
idea behind
noticed.
this to share the knowledge.
Yeah, listen. I also noticed you have a mailing list. You send once whoever subscribes to your um, subscription, then you send a weekly or mail with the latest news and updates. So that's really very good. And can you tell me about that? How do people subscribe, and what is the idea behind of that, the newsletter?
Yeah, so again, that was one of the elements that land on the blog sometime, that how to connect with your readers. Yes, and the idea behind it was to let's create the, let's say, newsletter that somebody could sign up and get some kind of communication more personal rather than just the articles on the blog. And in general, I'm announcing there an information about the new articles, new videos, but also once a week I'm sharing some kind of top 5 updates I found interesting in the last week. Most cases something I read, because I fully understand that the topic we start from today, being expert in everything, is impossible. Moreover, its number of updates, number of changes, number of improvements, new features is so huge. It's extremely difficult to
Yeah, it's
find time
hard.
to focus on them. So what I'm doing, I'm selecting top 5 I seen last week. I read mostly on LinkedIn, and then I'm sharing
Yeah.
sharing with my readers as a recommendation.
I had actually the honor, I think, sometimes to be mentioned in your newsletters, and I thank you very much for including me. Um, Not some of the things are solutions that I found by myself, and others are just sharing from other resources. And I want to congratulate you for getting your MVP. Congratulations! When was that?
Thank you very
A month
much.
ago?
Correct. My colleague.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm really glad about it and thankful for all people that, let's say, helped me to achieve that. Uh, Again, to be very, very transparent, 10, 12 years ago, there's something I was dreaming about, but nowadays
Yeah,
it comes very naturally. I think the important thing you mentioned, Ami, is nowadays a lot of people in the community sharing things between each other. Idea behind it is, let's say, to share the knowledge, especially in
yeah,
the nowadays times when everything's starting to be more and more complex.
yeah,
And if somebody recognizes the work I'm doing, I'm just thankful for that.
yeah. I think I also received an MVP, I think a month ago or 2 months ago, and um, it was the second time I was re-nominated because the first time it wasn't accepted, and I always said, even if I don't get the MVP, I will continue to contribute. So the MVP was just like extra bonus, and but I was told that it's not easy to get the MVP, and it considerations are getting higher, and if we received it, then we probably did a good job. Well done. Can you
Congrats to you.
explain actually what how who nominated you, and what was the journey to become an MVP? I mean,
Yeah, I think, let's say, the organization I work in is very focused on the Microsoft technology, and historically there were a lot of MVPs there. And one of the MVPs that is a part of the organization, Tomasz Pączek, nominates me. Uh, and in general, I think this is important element. If somebody will think anyhow about that kind of program, is to find somebody that will be somehow your mentor. Yeah, if you
yeah,
want to, if you're sharing with the community doing that, and you're looking forward to become Microsoft MVP, which could be beneficial for any case, it's worth to ask somebody for the guidance about the advisory, how to work, because this is very formal process with few steps. But
yeah.
in general, organization doing a lot of things internally that I work for to promote people that sharing the knowledge. So that's the way that it's happened in my case.
Well, again, congratulations, and you're doing a great job. Your information is very relevant, very high level. I can tell you also the way you in your videos you present in a very relaxed way that people you speak slowly, and people sometimes speak slowly and people will understand fast. So it's very I feel when I see your videos, even what's called like SharePoints for dummies. So you speak in a language that everyone speaks, not because just because you know what you're talking about, and it's really very the information there is very good. So I want to thank you. Now I want to ask you some. How do you create the videos? Do you write your script? Do you just say I'll write topics? What tools do you use to make your video? Yeah, some tips and tricks for
Sure.
a YouTuber beginner.
Yeah. So in general, trying to talk about things that are interesting for me. To give you the example, and I'm preparing, let's say, some kind of high-level description what I want to talk about. What are the elements that I should present? To give you the example about. I publishing the news around Microsoft in the LinkedIn using Power Automate. I have automated solution to do that. Nowadays, I'm preparing the video how to build such a solution using Microsoft List, Power Automate, Zapier to connect with LinkedIn and to build you scheduler for the let's say social media publishing. Yeah, so I'm splitting the videos for multiple elements that I'm talking about. But again, I'm trying to focus on the elements that I have understanding, have the feeling, have opinion, to be sure that, let's say, I'm not talking about something I have no idea about. That's one thing. Second, I simplify the way how I'm building the videos. So, and this is something I also would recommend to eliminate the time necessary to build such a video. I'm using Camtasia for recording the screen, for editing the video, for getting the sound. It's quite cheap and good solution to start with. And if somebody will thinking to start the YouTube channel about Microsoft 365, it's a really great solution. The second thing I would recommend is really good microphone, and then a kind of camera as a third one. So the voice is much more important, let's say, than video, in my opinion. And I'm using very basic stuff. So some Audio-Technica microphone and Logitech Brio video camera. So something very, very basic. But one thing which I would recommend, and which you mentioned a few minutes ago, the language you're speaking to your viewers. If we grew up from Microsoft technology, we have always tendency to focus on the very technical aspects of things. And nowadays, people who using Microsoft 365 could be anyone. It could be frontline worker, it could be office worker, it could be somebody from HR, finance, or IT. And I would always recommend to focus on the business side. So to show what is the value for the end user to, let's say, do something. So if you want to save time, or other way, if you're planning to publish something on social media and want to save time, you can use Power Automate to do that. And these are the few steps that you can use to deliver something like that. Or like in last of your videos, which is on my watch list, to get back to like how to color the folders in SharePoint and OneDrive. Very simple functionality which could really improve the way how you organize your stuff. It's not rocket science there, but still something you have to know to start to use it. And these are the things that if you think something is interesting, then it's worth to bring that as an idea to work on. I don't do a lot of analysis before.
Now I guess you're from Poland, so you speak Polish, but most of your videos are in English. Do you do any videos also? First of all, your English is perfect, so. But do you do also local training or some videos in Polish, or most of it is in English?
Let's say 10 years ago, I have a blog around SharePoint in Polish, SharePointblog.pl. It's not available anymore, but what I saw then, let's say, if I will focus just on the local language, let's say audience or people that could use it is very limited. It's very difficult to reach out to the people that are not know Polish, but that probably most of you who watch it does not know it. So that was the reason to switch to English, and also on the blog, not only on the YouTube channel, to focus on the area that more people could, let's say, get value behind it. And to be fair, I get a lot of messages from people from Africa, India, US,
Yeah.
that they're using that stuff on the daily basis, and it will be totally not possible if I would deliver these materials in Polish. Probably, let's say my speaking quality will be better, but what to do?
Yeah, but your English is superb. So that's you cannot even know you're not a native English speaker, but it's really clear and understandable.
That's
So
only because I do a lot of editing of my videos.
okay. Well, it's totally fine. So actually, I would like to ask you the next question is how do you get all of the information that you see? You mentioned LinkedIn, but do you have other resources that you collect your information?
Yeah, nowadays I think the biggest value behind becoming Microsoft MVP is have the access to the additional training material. Something that I mentioned
Yeah.
was present also in Microsoft. This is super useful. But in general, I following a lot of people, including you, Ami, on LinkedIn. Mostly on LinkedIn, to be fair, that's my main platform to gather the information around Microsoft 365, plus few blogs that I'm following. And I'm marking elements that are interesting for me. And every week I'm sitting down every Thursday and getting through them and see if something interesting there. Again, it's super heavy to do that because it's a
It's
lot of
hard.
messages, a lot
Yeah.
of announcements,
Yeah.
a lot of time needed. But also, let's say I'm focusing when I working on the projects with people
Mm-hmm.
that are much more better than me on the technology side. Then this is the space when I can learn new things and bring their expertise also to others. Yeah. So to give you the
Yeah.
example, a few weeks ago I have discussion with one of the customer that have 99% of the SharePoint storage done, and there are almost zero
Oh,
free space, and what to
okay.
do with such a case. Yeah. And that was the time when I was starting to research syntax repository service, so future archive for the SharePoint
Yeah.
Online, something very interesting, not present yet, but that
Yeah.
kind of business case is helping to focus on some areas that could be interesting.
Yeah, actually, yeah, but I think you can't you increase the storage by ordering more, or
Yeah, but
did they pass the limits of the site? Yeah,
you can always buy additional storage, but it costs. Yeah. So
yeah,
especially if
I see.
you, I don't know, if you maybe you migrate from on-premise shared drives and you have
Yeah,
100 terabytes of the data there, then you start to think, okay, how to optimize the costs. And what you can do, you can push it to some kind of Azure cold storage,
yeah,
but then it's totally separated environment. You don't have these collaboration features, security features, retention,
yeah,
all of that. This new approach for the SharePoint archive storage, cold storage there is something that will be cheaper, but will not limit you from the security perspective, from collaboration
yeah,
perspective, and it will be not that visible from the end user side. Yeah, the storage will be much slower, but at the
yeah,
same time, you will not have to move it somewhere else. Again, this feature is not present yet. Microsoft Syntax for the categorization of the data is already rolled out, but Microsoft 365 archive probably will be till the end of this
I
year,
see.
hopefully.
I have a question. What do you think about OneDrive? Because OneDrive is, we have SharePoint, which is the backend for Teams and for document management, and we have, and it's also for collaboration, and we have OneDrive. Now, OneDrive for organizations can be like a shadow IT, or can be a place where people store it and no one can access it. And if they leave the company, the information will be. And I can tell you, I'm now in a project where the company said we're closing the OneDrive. They have like 90 terabyte of OneDrive information that no one has access, and they want everything to move either to SharePoint or to a file server. And So what do you think about if you and each one got in OneDrive 5 terabyte for uploading all of the wedding pictures and other things, and so one of the restrictions was also remove your non professional information from OneDrive, and don't keep organization information in OneDrive because it's no one can access it. So what do you think about the concept and how Microsoft presents OneDrive?
Mhm. I would be far from, let's say, turning it off because, if you will block something for the end users, they will find a way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
the next step could be that your data flowing using WeTransfer or any other
Yeah.
publicly available platform to share the
Hmm.
data. But what is missing in the most of the organization is the governance and this adoption that we
Yeah.
mentioned a few times today. Yeah? So if you want to engage people and don't have such a problems, you need to at least advise them, train them, show them that
Yeah.
OneDrive is useful just for you. Yeah, back up your desktop, back up your documents
Yeah.
there,
Okay.
have
For
your
some reason,
personal data that you're working
we
on,
can
but if you're
continue.
working with
So
others, move it to SharePoint.
yeah.
I think one of the things that could help, but again, this is much more complex process if the companies will implement classification of the data. So using E5,
Hmm.
E3 functionalities to classify the data, something that is personal on the OneDrive, something that is globally available only internally, and things like that. Then it's much easier to show people what should be uploaded where. Or if there's no licenses like that, just to build the governance. One thing that one of the organizations I worked in the past implement very good process. So building some kind of ambassadors groups across the organization, like 50 people for 5,000 users. For 50,000 users, and
Wow.
so very small percentage. Yeah, but the people that will locally available and be some kind of technical guru what to do with your data. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they were people that helping IT to reach out to the local business users what to do with their data. I agree. Shadow IT could happen, but the only way to, let's say, address it is to deliver something to the business users, because blocking could
Yeah.
help, but at the same time, many times business will find out a different way, probably less secure, probably less safe, and without any privacy of the data,
Yeah.
to bring the data outside organizations. So good governance trainings, that's the way to help with that.
Yeah. For instance, I have another issue. For instance, when you now go to Microsoft List, so you can choose if to store the information um, in OneDrive for yourself. So you're creating some list that only you can have, maybe sharing, or you can choose to do it in a team or in a SharePoint. And now this could cause duplicates. So each two people could create a list which each one has it for him own self, and actually it's on the same topic. And some organizations maybe should consider deactivating that, because
Yeah, in worst case, if there is no space to deliver the governance, yeah, we don't have budget, maybe we don't have
yeah,
resources, maybe it's better to implement the Microsoft 365 step by step. Yeah? I'm a
yeah,
big fan to give people everything they want, but at the same
yeah,
time, if we
hmm,
want to limit, let's say, any possible risk that huge mess will happen, it's much better to do that step by step. And again, I will give you the example of one of automotive organization that just enabled the Power Platform. They
okay,
have 60,000 employees around the globe. They local entities did local trainings how to use Power Platform, and after 2 years, they have 2,000 applications.
wow,
Nobody have idea what they do, what
oh
they
my god,
store, how GDPR blew up
yeah,
there, and they have to invest a lot of money then to assess them,
yeah,
classify them, and govern them. So it is much better to, let's say, do that in much more controlled way, but at the same time, especially if there's no big investment around governments,
yeah.
then this limitation model is probably safer if we do not want to have huge mess that have to be fixed someday.
Yeah. By the way, we were using, or the customer that I was working for was using in OneDrive the file request. And now actually it's enabled in SharePoint. If your site is open to externals, then actually just for people that don't know what this file request is, you can send a link where people can upload some documents. They won't see where the documents are stored, but actually in the back end, the person that shared the link will have all of the information. It was once available only for OneDrive, and now in SharePoint, it's possible if you enable anyone can share. Or so. Do you know this feature?
Frankly,
Yeah,
I
you
did
like
not
it?
use it yet, but let's say moving from giving the access to the SharePoint rather than share the links that provides the access probably is the right direction, yeah, because it
Yeah,
simplifies, let's say, complexity of the access management we know from SharePoint on premise, yeah. So super complex groups,
yeah,
hundreds of unique permissions. So if we bringing that functionality to, let's say, links that provide the access, it's much easier to manage that rather than complex access management. So
yeah,
probably the direction is good, but at the same time, uh, if the business have no idea how to work with these
yeah.
features, sooner or later something wrong could happen. Yeah.
Actually, I use this feature of OneDrive with request file also integrated in Microsoft Forms. Because in Microsoft Forms, if you wanted a person to upload a file, it was enabled only for internal users. And now, when you send a link where externals can do it, then it would be like a workaround. You put the link in the Microsoft Forms, and actually externals can do that. But hopefully,
And
maybe in
probably
Microsoft.
better to SharePoint rather than OneDrive again.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to the next question. Is do you have any three tips, either in SharePoint or in Teams, which would be best practice? What would be the first things you would recommend a site owner to do, either in Teams or in SharePoint, to for productivity or for make it simpler? Can you think about anything? If
The first thing I was recommending is use Microsoft Lists instead of Excel. This is something super simple,
okay, yeah,
and it gives you much more control. Of course, if this is, let's say, if Excel doesn't contain mathematical forms or something like that,
yeah.
but it structured the data, it's much better to move it to Microsoft Lists. It's very simple
Mm-hmm.
to do that. At the same
Yeah,
time, you have the capability to collaborate on the records, automate things, integrated with the profile user information, and much more. And again, zero code behind. So from my perspective, I'm a big fan of the Microsoft list.
yeah.
I always using that, automating my work based on it. So again, something that is by design available for everyone. So
And you
um,
can import either from Excel or from a CSV, which gives some more additional functionality. Yeah,
correct. And again, when you compare it with the shared Excel file that somebody could block,
yeah,
somebody could download, upload, send via email, having centralized place when contains the data,
yeah,
it sells itself.
yeah. Of
From,
course.
from perspective of Microsoft Teams, I always recommend, let's say, organizations. Which we talk about, especially if there are any part of frontline workers, any people that are not using PCs to deliver the bring your own device strategy. Yeah. So this is, let's say, more technical aspect, but something many organization totally ignore that part. Yeah. So does not engage. I don't know, people in the stores, people that's serving the customers,
Yeah,
with the topic around how to communicate with the organization, how to share the knowledge. And today's every license since F1 contains Microsoft Viva Learning, Microsoft Viva Connections, SharePoint plus Viva Engage and Teams.
yeah,
So if you have employees that you want, you can deliver them huge books with the
yeah,
policies, knowledge management, which you have to update every month. Having the possibility to deliver that using these functionalities without any additional costs, it's super beneficial. The only challenge is, and this is something that
Yeah.
I face a lot, almost non-organization deliver the devices for such a people. So you need
Yeah.
to bring your own device strategy to achieve that. And
I
that's the
see.
big challenge. So if you are in the security team department, it's worth to consider that kind of scenario, because, again, if you will not deliver something, people will figure out the way. Maybe WhatsApp, maybe Facebook group.
Yeah.
Sky is the limit.
Actually, one hidden gem in Teams is shifts. Actually, it's free, and you can do assign shifts, and you can do. It's really a great platform that not many know, and for frontline line workers, it can be accessible from the mobile, and they can see what. Shifts that were assigned, and it can be broke down into groups, and that's something actually I found out some years ago, and it's free, so it's why not use it.
True,
Yeah.
true.
Um, Go ahead.
And maybe last one thing, if I may, PowerPoint Live in Microsoft Teams. So something that
Oh,
almost nobody use and should be, in my opinion, native way of sharing slides in the presentation or Microsoft Teams meeting. You don't share the screen, you just upload the presentation. You have much more functionalities. You can work on multiple screens. Nobody will see what you're doing. That very simple thing, available for everyone, feature that is heavily not used by anyone right now, from my perspective,
yeah.
and I try to promote that, but still without huge success.
I think actually in this feature the major thing is the performance. So if you the screen or everything works much faster when you do the SharePoint the PowerPoint Live compared when you do it when you're sharing the screen. So that's one of the great things. And by the way, there's now, I think, in Teams Excel Live, which I don't know if people know it, but it's also the same concept, but even more collaborative because people can work on a spreadsheet. Yeah, so I want to ask you, as we always, a consultant needs to know what's going on in future. What features that you heard about that Microsoft is planning to come with, and that you are excited and looking forward to test? Of course, things that you can speak about and that Microsoft has spoke about, and not things that we are under NDA. So what features do you think you're looking for in future that might be game changers?
Sure. So for sure, I'm excited, like everyone, about Copilot and this possibility,
Woo!
especially how to build a business
Yeah,
case for the organizations, because
AI.
this will be premium functionality. It will not be cheap. At the same time, it will deliver huge possibility, like virtual assistant that could help you to summarize, think, prepare improve your performance on the daily tasks. So that is something I'm really looking forward, especially from perspective how to build really business engagement around it. That's interesting for
Hmm.
me, because I have some ideas, but again, like with Viva, when you face the customer,
Yeah,
then let's say the customer perspective could be too different. But again, this is AI powered bring
yeah,
to Microsoft 365, something super interesting. Plus Microsoft Syntax, that's something I'm starting to be interested. I know that product from the
yeah,
very beginning, when it was SharePoint Syntax and was more
yeah,
like intelligent OCR based on machine learning, that we can
yeah,
bring the metadata from the invoice, like company tax information, things like that. Perfect thing. But I'm looking for how it will evolve to these aspects of the categorization of the data. So how we can teach my Microsoft Syntax to
yeah,
classify the data that will be archived for our cold storage. I think this could be really, let's say, totally new space that we have to learn about.
yeah,
So again, we getting to the beginning
yeah,
of our discussion, that new element came up, because that will be something that big organizations for sure will be interested if they have a lot of data, and if they can decrease the
yeah,
costs using features like that, for sure they will be interested in that. And frankly, I'm looking forward to have the possibility to play with public preview as
Yeah,
soon as it will be available.
I think Copilot will touch everything. It can be SharePoint where you can describe in a prompt to create a page or a site, and it can be Teams, it can be Power Automate, it can be Power Apps, and it can be lots of things which actually sounds. Now, people are a bit confused because Teams also has premium, so it's are people paying for premium? Are you paying addition? Because premium is supposed also to have some AI in it. So I think Microsoft maybe will need to clarify or to maybe make a new route which combines them, because to also be premium and also Copilot can be very um, yeah expensive. So
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
I think it's fair to say that probably Microsoft 365 could be more expensive in the future, because
Yeah.
we get used to this very low price if we compare it, I don't know, with Calendly that costs $15
Yes.
per month per user, and this is just improved bookings, with much
Mm-hmm.
more functionality, much more complex, but still. Right now, for $15, we can have whole Microsoft 365 with Exchange, with Teams, with
Yeah.
SharePoint, with Power Platform. So very complex solution. Probably we should expect that there will be split between basic and premium features.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in SharePoint, nothing I heard about, but in Teams,
Yeah.
this is already here. In Power Platform, same thing. Probably other application will also have such strategy that there will be part of the function in Viva. Yeah, we have the Viva Engage. Viva Topics is fully premium, but Viva Engage have version basic, seated, and premium that you have to pay additional costs. Again, not every organization probably will be interested in that, and probably that will also get to the point that not every organization will use every functionalities. I don't also expect that many organizations will go with rollout of Copilot for every
Yeah.
user, because it will
No,
be
no.
huge costs.
Only
But
specific people. Yeah.
exactly, but at the same time, we will see. Maybe that will be so
Yeah.
exciting, or maybe so beneficial that it will grow, but probably not from big boom, rather than step by step.
Have you tested the Chat GPT already and seen if you can use it, let's say, for Microsoft Lists or for other things? Have you ever tried to combine or
Yeah,
use Chat GPT for lists or
I play
SharePoint?
I play with it a little from time to time. I'm checking. It's for sure is beneficial, but it lies a lot. If you paste my
Yes.
name, who is Szymon Bochniak, there you read the whole story. Who am I? Which doesn't. It's close, but it's totally not true. So again, that's difficult. So to be fair, when I compare ChatGPT to Bing Chat, I prefer Bing Chat because at least I have the references. What is the source of the information? But
Yeah.
again, without any doubt, this is very useful functionality, especially for the tasks that are time consuming, that you don't have to be expert to prepare something. You can use it to be the foundation and then work on top of that. But at the same time, ChatGPT doesn't have much privacy there for enterprises. So probably Bing Chat could be, or Bing Chat Enterprise could be alternative for it.
Yeah. I think the Copilot compared to ChatGPT is more secure, and the information that it brings is not stored, and it's to do with permissions, and also so it's a closed environment, so people will
True.
feel more safe, that the information is not. Like ChatGPT, they might store the information that you ask or things like that. So definitely, hopefully, the Microsoft will provide a safe environment for that. Okay, so wow, listen, I want to say I really enjoyed meeting you, and I'm for sure will be in contact with you in future. You're a very interesting person, and you have tons of knowledge, and please continue sharing because listen, you're doing a great job. One last thing, if people want to know about you, what do you do besides technologies? Do you have any hobbies or anything you would like to share with us that is
I'm totally a village person. So if you ask
okay?
me, the way how I rest, if I take a shovel and dig a hole in the ground, so that's the way I'm resting from IT part. If you ever watch Friends and seen Joey digging a hole in the beach, that's exactly me in the garden. So that's the way
Ah,
I'm resting. Plus some hiking. Thankfully, I'm living very
that's
close
good.
to,
That's
to, to
good.
mountains. Most likely in the past I was also doing a beekeeping, but it's super super time consuming hobby, so I have to unfortunately move it from it.
Bees. You mean honey? To making
Correct.
honey. Wow.
Exactly.
And
uh,
you're not, weren't you bitten from the bees or
a lot
what?
of times, but I did not have any reaction, especially after time. So, but it's super rewarding hobby, but it's extremely time consuming. It's like you
And now
becoming a farmer and starting to take care of animals exactly on this level. So if you want to have free weekends and possibly to have a summer break, it's super difficult, unfortunately.
now the honey can be different where the bee which if the bee goes to a different plant or different flower, then it's a different taste, right? Is that true? Like
Correct,
each.
correct, correct. But there's no, let's say, any kind of testers. The
Yeah.
beekeepers just putting the fingers and telling,
Mm,
that will be something.
I see.
Acer honey or something like that. But thankfully, bees, when they found something, all bees going in one direction. So you can be sure that the taste will be focused on that.
I see. So for people that want to reach you and get in contact with you, what would be the social medias that you mainly post or can connect with you?
Sure. The easiest way is to get to my blog, office365@work.com, and you will find all social medias there. But you can also find me just pasting Szymon Bochniak in the Google. I know that's super difficult,
Hmm.
first and second name, but this is the way how it looks like.
Yeah.
So Google me, and you will find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or anywhere else.
Do you use Twitter or not yet?
Not anymore.
Or X? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's, by the way, what about TikTok? Are you considering to do videos in TikTok?
Yeah, my boomer nature does not allow me to do that.
Oh, I see.
I'm doing some tests about shorts in YouTube, but still, let's say, my feeling that I'm a little too old to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think they say that's the future. People are, it's short videos doing, yeah. But yeah. So I want to thank you very much for being on my show. It was a real honor. And let's maybe we'll have an additional episode about talk about professional things. So thank you very much and see you. Goodbye.
Pleasure to talk to you, Ami. Thank you.